Cinema Classics is sponsored by WCBE 90.5 FM Columbus, Ohio, and is produced by John DeSando and Johnny DiLoretto. Listen to shows online at WCBE.org.
I'm John DeSando.
And I'm Kevin Carr, sitting in for Johnny DiLoretto.
And this is Cinema Classics. And we have a real classic here, I think, already.
Thank you very much.
Relatively young man, Baz Luhrmann.
Although he's gone Silver Fox.
I know, you can see that kind of Ralph Lauren look to him.
Full Ted Danson
Right.
on this guy, yeah.
I thought we'd talk a little bit about his newest Elvis, and then we could get into his filmography.
Absolutely.
So we're talking Baz Luhrmann, we're talking Elvis. Now, did you get a chance to see it?
I did.
All right, now I'm very anxious to hear about your take.
It's flashy and flamboyant.
You think?
Yeah, he's known for that. But the one thing I will say, it is less about Elvis the man and more about Elvis the legend. It's what Elvis does when he's on stage.
Nicely said.
And that fits in as we talk more about Baz Luhrmann's career. That fits completely in line with how he makes movies. I mean, it's a feast to watch. You know, his stuff always is. I mean, it's visually compelling and over the top and crazy. But I mean, there's weird things. Kind of taking it from Colonel Parker's point of view seemed a little odd to me. And boy, does Tom Hanks just chew the scenery. I mean, he's like a dog with a bone on that stuff. Just doesn't let go of it. And it does run a bit long.
Oh, you think?
By the time
it's almost 3 hours.
Well, by the time I'm hitting the third hour, I'm like, oh my God, just go to Vegas and get fat already.
And I have my own uncertainty about Hank's role.
Yes.
It's distracting to me.
It's his story, really.
Yeah. And he doesn't do a very good job of defending himself.
I don't think they ever mention. He's definitely the villain. So I mean, that's the thing that's so conflicting for me about the Colonel Parker role, is that it's more about Parker than it is about Elvis. I mean, but you can't untangle the two. But if you talk about the personality and the character building, that's all on Parker. Elvis is just this poster boy, you know?
Yeah, and how do you think Butler did?
I think Butler does a great job.
Don't you? I agree.
Yeah.
Amazing to me.
He's got a job in Vegas anytime he needs it.
Boy,
Sure.
And you know, it's not the thing for all people out there raising their eyebrows and saying another Elvis imitator. He's not really. He's actually a performer who evokes recollection of Elvis very strongly, of course. But he also is not trying to sound exactly like Elvis.
Yeah.
Where I think the contribution is, in looking at Elvis, is that I think that Elvis liberated so many artists for their bodies, to use their bodies. You know, I think that was the opening. That's it. You know.
Well, I mean, and they really lean into that too.
Yes.
I mean, it's almost, let's just say it's almost mystical, the effect that his gyrations have on the endocrinology of the girls in the audience. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. And actually, if you think about it, there are lots of black performers who were just as dexterous as he was.
Oh yeah. Well, they even, you know, they drop in Little Richie, a little cameo for him.
Right.
And I mean, and that was the whole point, is that white America at that time wanted to have nothing to do with black guys gyrating on stage for the white teenage daughters. That was not going to happen. But then when a white guy did it, they didn't know how to respond to it. It's very similar. That happens. That's America. That's how America has, at least the mainstream, has looked at stuff. Everything from Charlie Chan. When you have when Charlie Chan was played by a white guy in yellow face makeup, they did well. When they cast a real Chinese person as Charlie Chan, nobody saw it. You know, so this is the way. Certainly in the first part, and then well into the middle of the 20th century, how things went down. That's why you have so many people. That's why Yul Brynner played in The King and I, even though, you know, I mean,
that's right.
They always do some very murky racial casting, because only white people could bring that to the mainstream.
Yeah. It's a tragic story.
Oh yeah.
42, he died at 42.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I do think
he had a lot of help to do that, though. I mean.
I do think, as you're looking at the role of Colonel Parker, is that his shenanigans about Elvis playing in Vegas at the International Hotel was revealing, even if it was hyperbole.
It was, yeah, it had to have been hyperbole. Some of it just is like, well, that's just almost silly. Well, and the other thing is, and look, I'm not trying to defend Parker at all, but one of it heaps all of the problems on Parker. But there were a lot of vultures in Elvis.
Oh,
Presley's life.
yes.
Everyone from his family to the Memphis Mafia. I mean, there are a lot of people who took
Right.
advantage of him. It was not just some old guy in a bad hat.
No. And in fact, I thought he died from drug overdose.
Well,
They're saying here, a heart attack.
Yeah, it may have been pushed along by the drug.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think it was an actual overdose.
Okay.
And he ended up, whatever it was like a coronary or something.
Yeah, right, they're saying he was.
But he was not a healthy man.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is because I've seen, if you've watched any biopics of Elvis, or there was a movie, I think it was a documentary made in the 80s, I think called This Is Elvis or something like that. And it goes into him as an artist, about what he was trying to do, and sort of how he was sort of lost in the Vegas years and trying to bring in new sound. I mean, artists have to reinvent themselves every 10 or 20 years. You know, Madonna was a master at it. David Bowie was a master at it. But if you're like Elvis, he never had that 20-year cycle to reinvent himself, and he was just getting ready to. And he was kind of reinvented himself as the Vegas Elvis, but.
And if you think you're going to get any more insight into Priscilla Presley, and that you're not going to get it in this film.
Yeah, well, that's what I said. Like, where it's like Elvis he's not a well-formed character in the movie.
Yes.
I mean, even his parts with Priscilla, it's kind of like, oh, I'm sorry, baby, that I had all those sex with all those women. It just, I had to because I was on the road.
Right, yeah.
You know, I mean, it's,
Yes, yeah. So yeah, and that does correlate with your point, is that it's at least a lot about the Colonel, and it's a lot about the glitz, and this is Baz Luhrmann stuff all the way. Kevin, those jumpsuits are beautiful.
Well, the thing is, the glitz and he didn't really get that much into the glitz until later, but
Yeah.
he's blitzing from day one in this movie.
Oh yeah, oh my gosh, yeah. And the emphasis on his gyrations is from the beginning.
Yeah.
I remember my sister and others at that time going crazy over the guy.
Yeah.
And I think it's much more than just sexual, though that's clearly what it is.
It was liberating.
Yeah,
probably
right. And I think they found something to liberate this, I'll use your verb, to liberate themselves. And so I thought he accurately got that from what I remember. Everything was about Elvis at that time.
Well, and I took my mother to see it, and
Oh, good.
she was right kind of in that sweet spot. Maybe she was maybe just a hair young, but right there in the Elvis mania. And she loved it. And I mean, yeah, so it does, but it's hyper real, like anything Baz Luhrmann does, you know. I mean, like the opening scene of him dancing, it felt like it was that Fembot scene from Austin Powers, where he was using his mojo to kill the Fembots.
Well, Kevin Carr, this is too short a time for us. I think we can counsel people to go to Backtalk.
Yeah.
We can counsel people to go to Double Take to get more. Can you imagine anybody would want more of us?
Of course, why not?
They go to the podcast experience, WCBE, and then they can hear us on that show. Your advice about this film to our audience?
Don't expect an accurate presentation, but it's a lot of fun. But yeah, it's like 2.5 hours.